Now that it's 6:30, make a motion to open the Finance Committee. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Tuesday, August 30th at 6:30. All members are present. That's Councilor Tallman, Leahy, McGee, Bacon, and Lopez. With that, we'll go right down the agenda. So item number 1, make a motion to move to the table. All's in favor? All opposed? Order that there hereby be authorized the establishment and maintained for fiscal year 2017 in quarter to Chapter 44, 53E, the Government TV Access Channel Revolving Fund. We took this up at the last meeting and tabled it with a request for certain things to be addressed. Is there anyone here with regards to cable? No? No one in the hall? No, he was waiting.
I don't think they want to be in the spot for this.
So if
I'll
no
make a
one's
motion
here,
to leave it on the table.
all right. Motion is, Jimmy had a question, or?
I'm just gonna abstain from it.
Okay. So, yeah, Dio?
Are we losing any money if we table this again or anything, or we?
There's no money
okay?
being lost.
Money.
It's how it's being accounted for, who's accounting for it,
Which is
so on and so forth.
Okay, all right.
So, since there's no answer, we'll, once again, same request. Motion is to table it. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And Jimmy Leahy is abstaining. Item number 2, make a motion to move from the table. Or that they're hereby authorized the establishment and maintain for fiscal 2017 in accordance with 44-53-2 vacant property revolving fund. Move from the table. All in favor? All opposed? Is there anyone here, we know the answer to this one, for the vacant building one? Paul, come on in.
I think he was just waiting.
Take a seat. Just make sure the buttons are on. Yeah, please.
No, I did not.
Turn it over to you, Paul, and just make sure your microphone's on. And Brian, you here too? Yeah. So you're both on. Whoever wants to go first.
Very good. Thanks, folks, for having us here. I just wanted to be available to answer any questions the committee might have about this proposed revolving fund. It's something that the vacant building registration process is something I've worked closely with Brian Fitzgerald and his department, and this is really an essential component to continue the progress the city has made on recovering unpaid registration fees. We have implemented several interventions to improve the process of ensuring owners of vacant property register their property. Ultimately, the most effective means to recover unpaid fees is through the mechanism that the ordinance provides, which is recording a lien on property. One of the challenges is it costs money to do that. And the Board of Health has finite blight remediation funds and wants to use those funds to remediate blight, to board and secure properties, to clean up vacant lots if owners fail to do that. Ultimately, when you have maybe 100 unpaid fees, 100 properties with unpaid fees, $75 per lien adds up. And the Board of Health wants to use the money available to it to board up properties, not pay lawyers to record liens. So the revolving fund is a mechanism under state statute other communities have adopted for this purpose that would enable incoming registration fees, approximately $19,000 in the last fiscal year, which was the most since implementation of the vacant building registration ordinance. It would allow that money to come into a revolving fund, to use that to fund recording a lien, which would then enable us to recover much more, I believe, much more unpaid registration fees, And then those monies can be used as the ordinance, section 1835 requires, those funds to be used to mitigate the city's costs of monitoring and maintaining vacant properties. So really, this is a tool that I think is both necessary to continue our blight remediation efforts. It's also a tool I think is necessary to comply with the 2009 vacant building registration ordinance. I'm a talkative person, so you can cut me off. But if you have any questions, both Brian and I would be happy to address them.
All right, so open up the members' questions. Giustato?
So who has the final say on spending money and all that? It will be Brian? Let's say, for example, we have this vacant property that the grass is high and the owner is not doing anything. So who has the final say to spend money, and that will be?
Building department, law department are gonna need money, they're just gonna ask me, and we'll write the rec, that's,
Yeah,
I guess I have final say, but it's just gonna be a request from them guys, and I'll just say yes. We're gonna try to work together on this.
so
And the money should get a lot higher, but at the end of the year, if we start calling liens in and stuff, and the plans we have, that 19,000 that we pulled in, that should actually increase a lot more by the end of the year. We won't know until, when? November, December?
Yeah, the plan is to, and the council actually appropriated, I think, about $5,000 for the law department to record liens. So we're really going to aggressively expand the current year's outstanding fees to recover those. So those monies would be coming into the fund. So we'll get, I think, a better idea as January, February rolls around. But of course, I mean, the liens don't necessarily get paid as soon as they're recorded. It takes, the property to sell or the owner to take action to release the lien. So it could be some time after that.
But I just wanna understand this. So the priority will be to pay the liens of the property. That will be the priority of this fee, or how that will work. I mean, like, what I'm trying to find out is, like, for example, we have a vacant house down in Ingleside. The whole neighborhood is going crazy. The city is trying to abstain it. The house is a mess. So are we able to use this type of funds to secure the house until we
Absolutely.
get whatever we need to do? That's what we're talking
How about we do it this way, because a couple questions just came over. Why don't you just walk us through the process? So I call you up, Brian, which you've been phenomenal for me with some issues in the ward. As councilors brought up, high grass, trash on an abandoned building, or the owner's just not doing anything. What's the process? How do, what are the fees? Walk us through everything so that way we can understand it. I call you right now. I got a house next to me,
high
grass is 10
grass.
feet high.
At some point, we find out that it's vacant, we have to send out, and that, we find out a lot of different ways. Just from observation, talking to other staff, neighbors, you guys, find out it's vacant, we send out a vacant building registration form, and they're told to register and pay a fee. That's that chapter 18 that you guys created a couple years ago. And we also tell them to clean the property, and any violations that we wrote up, they have to fix. If that isn't done, if they don't do anything, what we'll do is we'll send a crew in, an outside contractor. We have 2 different contractors that are licensed, insured. They'll come in and they'll clean the properties. They don't go inside. They, in rare cases, in a hoarding case, they will. But they'll go in, they'll clean the outside. We'll put a lien on the property. Tickets, those will end up as a lien at the end of the year.
So
So when Paul goes to Springfield and calls the liens in, that's where the bigger money's gonna probably start coming in.
I think,
Yeah, Jimmy.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming down here, and thank you for getting all this going. A few questions that I had were, first of all, this is new to the city of Hoyle, correct?
correct, doing a revolving fund for this
Yeah.
purpose, yeah.
Second thing is, are other cities and towns doing this, throughout Massachusetts and near here?
I know Boston has a mechanism for this. I'm not sure,
But it's, we don't have to recreate the wheel, it's already happening, okay.
exactly.
How much is a lien that when we file?
The recording fee's $75 to record per property.
And what are the average amount of liens do we record per fiscal year?
For vacant building properties, we recorded one. We just recently enacted the ordinance that will enable us to record liens for fines. Other than that, I actually don't know the exact number of so-called clean-in liens. Basically, when the Board of Health takes an action after an owner's failed. But I would imagine it's about a dozen.
Well, okay,
With the
so
order.
it doesn't. And one of the examples I was just thinking of is one on Yale Street. The old, I don't want to say the person's name,
I
but
was
on
by
Yale.
there today.
I'm sorry?
I was by there today.
Okay, so is there a lien on that house?
They're trying to, no. We're gonna put the liens on at the end of the year.
Okay,
We're just starting this process. That's why we want the revolving fund. And I didn't finish answering, when we're going through the process, it also goes into receivership in some cases. A lot of times the banks are jumping in, they're taking care of the property, they're maintaining them, they're trying to get through their court dealings, and they're trying to sell them too. And we've got some just sitting there. Todd, that one up in Jarvis Ave, that wasn't even foreclosed on, and I convinced the bank to maintain it. And they're supposedly up there every 2 weeks now doing that.
No, they're doing a great job.
and my last question is, part of this recording fee also goes to that, the thing we just voted on to be on the ballot. The name escapes me right now, that there's a fee, 1%, 0.5%, goes to the improvement of the, what's that thing I'm talking about?
Titles, I think.
That's my question, is it titles and, I thought it was all recordings.
I don't know what you're
Not
talking about.
familiar, no. If I could just bounce off one point that Brian made, every property, every bladed property in the city, has a different course for remediation. Some properties are going to respond best to, ticket fines being issued. Other properties need to go to housing court. Even within housing court, some properties are suitable for receivership. Other ones, you work directly with the owner or bank. In some properties where the grass is a mile high, the most effective thing for the Board of Health to do is to go in there and send a contractor to clean it up after, the owner has failed to do that. And then maybe a month or two down the road, say, okay, that property's vacant, let's put it in receivership. But getting that initial action is valuable. The purpose of the revolving fund is to imagine 10 properties in your head that need to have the grass cut and the broken windows boarded up. If it's $1,000 a property, and Brian does them all in the first 3 months of the fiscal year, and let's say we put liens on out of the law department's budget and recover that $10,000, we're done. The first 3 months of the year, Brian has $0 in his board and secure fund. We've got maybe $10,000 back, but it's in the general revenue fund, and it's going to sit there until either we make a additional appropriation or we wait till the next budget year. The purpose of the revolving fund is to say, the sky's the limit on blight remediation. Every dollar that we spend, we should be getting back from a delinquent owner. And frankly, I think that a revolving fund provides the departments the incentive to record liens and to secure recovery of their costs so that the city's dollar is protected, but that we're being productive with the dollars we expend.
Just back to Dio, does that answer the question you're trying to get at, or?
I just want to, I want to find out where we are with this house. I'm pretty sure you're familiar, 20 Arthur Street. That sound familiar to you guys?
Sorry, what was the address?
20 Arthur, down on Ingleside,
Does that run parallel to
to Main
Main
Street.
Street?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with it?
The city's trying to take over that house.
I know there's a few tax title properties on Arthur Street. I can definitely look into that.
Yeah,
And
please.
Was the grass just cut in the rear yard clean?
No, you did that, but it's like a madness. People going in. It's a
People are
problem.
still going in?
It's a problem in the neighborhood, and I'm afraid that we're gonna have a fire.
We just had it cleaned. I'll talk to somebody tomorrow, we'll get it boarded secured.
Are you able to put a number for neighbor to call, like say for an emergency? I mean, I know they call the police, but if they see anyone going in around 11, I know that they need to call the police, but I rather see if they can call your office, that you can follow up and see if there's any other way that the whole property can be taken care. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Is the question specific to tax title foreclosure properties
I-
the city owns in tax
I
title?
think the city's trying to take it over because they haven't paid taxes, but I think the bank, is trying to own it. So it's a fight between the city and the bank now. I don't know where that's gonna head.
I don't know why it wasn't boarded and secured. I don't know if it's been cleaned out yet. The interior?
I will go by and take some pictures and send them to you, and then you let me
We
know.
have to try to, we can't clean every property that comes
Oh, no,
up to us.
I know.
So we try to find the owner, try to go after the bank to get them to do it. I don't know if that's what we're waiting, I just don't know.
And I think it goes to that point that each property has a different course of remedy, and, you know, for a tax title property, the owner's not gonna show up when there's 70 grand in taxes, and, you know, certainly I think that goes to how we manage our tax title foreclosure properties, you know, which I think is a little bit different from what the scope of the revolving fund is, but, you know, as it evolves, I mean, you know, that's not a cost we can recover, because it's a cost we're expending against ourselves, but that's certainly a conversation that can be had in terms of how this plays out in the future.
All right, so we'll have them follow up with that. Yeah. Linda and then Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was around the use of the fund, and I understand under 1 and 2, you have specific things listed, but prior to the listing of 1 and 2, you have a statement that talks about general administrative costs. So if we do set up this fund, will it be used just for the activities in 1 and 2, or will it also be used for general administrative costs?
I'm sorry, is that 1 and 2 at the bottom there, revolving fund will be authorized to make disbursements?
Yes.
Last paragraph.
I'm not sure if the administrative costs to monitor and ensure proper maintenance are further described in 1 and 2, or if they're another category.
I think that's a very good point. The city ordinance for 1835, and this goes to the registration fees, which is, you know, one component of what the revolving fund revenues would be, and I think it would be a large source of money to fund activities. The ordinance requires that, you know, for us to legally assess a vacant building registration fee on someone, we have to have a justification for it, and the ordinance's language justifies it by saying these costs mitigate or are intended to cover the city's costs of monitoring and maintaining. So that language is actually drawn directly from the ordinance. It's included here because I think we want to be consistent with our ordinance, and if there's a question about, you know, what we are allowed to use the funds for, ultimately, by law, under Chapter 44, that this will be set up under, if approved, it would need to have that sort of maybe broad, but that kind of scope, that it would have to fall under that.
So as a practical matter, if we adopt this with this language as it sits, what things would the fund be paying for other than 1 and 2?
So I think, got a lot louder very quickly. I guess that means it wanted me to answer your question. I think 1 and 2, boarding up and cleaning vacant properties, so the sort of cutting the grass, the general maintenance, and recording liens, is really everything in my discussions with Brian and Bellamy, the city auditor. You know, that is really the scope of where we want this to be focused on. We don't want it to be used for a broad overreaching, range of uses. And I think that it would be reasonable and, if enacted, to define, what purpose, these funds would be used for. And ultimately, board up, clean up. I guess you could put demolition if that were something that, could arise down the road. Although the Board of Health has authority to demolish, but as a practical matter, that's usually through the building department.
But, I mean, as it sits, this couldn't be used for demolition, could it?
Correct.
Okay. And so, would the administrative costs be the recording of the liens? Or are there other fees out of the law department that would be coming out of the fund, for example?
Currently, the only administrative costs that, I think it would be used for is what we are, so whatever we're putting out is what we want to be taking back in and vice versa, so it would be liens. I'll pontificate a bit, one of the administrative costs that we do have is the list of vacant buildings and our process for maintaining that. We use an Excel spreadsheet. There might be down the road if, we have a revolving fund and we're doing a better job of bringing in recording fees, or I apologize, vacant building registration fees, we might want to look at, investing in a software solution or some property management. So in other
So
words, I
then
could see
you
there
would-
be.
Then you would potentially use the fund to buy that software.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that's what I
that's
was
the-
trying to get a sense of. Thank you.
There was talk about demolition on a small scale, and there was only talk, but there's nothing written down there. We had
I think,
threw that around a little bit.
yeah.
Well, and the reason I'm just asking specific questions, because our former auditor was had a low opinion of setting up a lot of separate revolving funds. And I think part of his concern was it starts out looking like it's going to be for this and this, and then somewhere down the road, it morphs into some other kind of fund for a whole variety of reasons. So I just want to make sure if we are going to consider setting it up, that we know what it will be used for and that it will have to come back and be amended if we're going to change the use. So that's why I'm wanting to understand what administrative costs are. I mean, if they're demolition, if they're software, I kind of could see that. But I mean, administrative costs is a very big bucket that you could dump almost anything in, so that's why I'm asking. Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you. I take it the current auditor is not going to be here this evening? I have some procedural and technical questions. And I agree with the former auditor, with all due respect to the gentleman sitting next to me. I understand the intent of what we're trying to do, and I think we could establish something that would make sense, but it needs a lot of fine tuning, and I'd like to try to explain that. Do we have language in front of us?
Yeah, it says, one, expenditures for the fund shall be specifically for the purpose of, one, boarding up and cleaning up vacant properties, liens for such expenses, recording liens for unpaid vacant building registration fees, and ticket fines. Two, the source of receipts to be credited to the fund shall be vacant building registration fees, reimbursement of boarding up and cleaning up expenses, ticket fines, reimbursement for lien recording expenses. Three, the officer authorized to extend from the fund shall be Brian Fitzgerald, which really I think it should just say Board of Health. Number four, limit on the total amount which may be expended from the fund during the fiscal year 2007 shall be the lesser of the actual receipts collected during the fiscal year 2007, or $50,000, which when combined with all other such a revolving fund under MGL Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, and that's just the regular stuff. But that's what it's limited to.
That's some of the fine tuning that I would have asked the auditor for, and I think that's a step in the right direction. But what I'd like to know is, fiscal year 2016, we must have a track record of how much money the city received for registration fees, how much money received for boarding up from people paying for the boarding up and cleaning expenses, how much we received in ticket fines, and how much we received in the the payment of the lien recording expenses. I think if we're only gonna be spending $50,000 a year out of this fund, I have no problem with that. But if we're collecting more than that, I have an issue. And the reason I have an issue is Ryan has a salary, Paul has a salary, Damian has a salary. Each of those departments have their expenses. And this money is going into the general fund, which goes back into the budget to pay for each of these departments. And if we take so much money out of the general fund, and this is why Brian hated revolving funds, unless they were very fine-tuned to specific purposes. Because we also have line items for demolition, we have line items for boarding up buildings. And when we go and do a budget, we're gonna have a revolving fund sitting over here we're not gonna see, and we're gonna be asked to put so much money in a line item over here. And the accountability makes it a little bit more difficult to follow. I think some of this money's collected, and I commend both the gentlemen, that, should be used for these purposes. In a sense, they are used for these purposes, but at the same time, a revolving fund just pinpoints some money into a fund that has to be appropriated and spent in a similar manner to what the budget is, but it's outside the budget. So I don't know if we're helping or hurting the cause here by funneling money towards the fund itself. I wish the auditor was here, because I would like to ask him some questions and see if we could get a better handle on it. But those numbers from 2016 shouldn't be that hard to get a hold of.
Anyone with other questions, or? So Joe is looking for the numbers from 2016. I think he pinpointed all the stuff that he was looking for. With regards to the requirements, has everyone taken a look at the requirements that they put in here? I mean, the only one I would have an issue with is number 3, not so much Brian Fitzgerald, but it may be more fine-tuned to say that the officer authorized to expend the funds shall be the director of the Board of Health or the position.
Yeah,
Because people retire, people,
I think that's a good
so.
suggestion. I do have some of, and I am not a Munis expert, but I do have some of the data for the last year's receipts for Board of Health fines. I think it comes in at about $12,000. The year before that was $8,700. I think Bellamy, in discussing with him, that's where the $50,000 estimate sort of arose from, looking at what our current revenue is, but also accounting for the expectation that by taking this step, we would increase the ability to collect, and those numbers would rise in turn.
All right, so with that, are there any other questions? Joe?
Did the mayor sign off on this?
Yeah, this is signed. Recommend the passage, meeting, August 2nd. No, August 2nd it was. That's all right, is there an order, a request, a motion?
I'll make a motion again. Let's pass it on August 30th.
Anyone else?
If it's possible, can we have it come back every year, that we can own this, or that's what we do now?
They have to come back every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every year too.
But I'll be voting against it if we can't get the information.
Joe, like we do sometimes, we can always say, motion is to approve it pending that the information be provided before the meeting. Or Linda, if you got a question, no, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to offer an amendment to table until we get the information.
we can do that,
I think
too.
when we're setting up this type of fund, that we need to have our auditor in here talking to us about the questions that have come up tonight.
Okay.
And that they've been considered, and how it is gonna have an impact on our city budget. I mean, we've been having a lot of unpleasant surprises lately. You know,
What was that?
Is this of the essence, or?
We wanted to get it done this year, didn't we?
Okay, I'll second Linda's,
So there we have a little time to,
Yeah,
Just
I
get the
think it's
information
certainly,
and-
yeah.
If we wanted to start going to court in late fall, right?
And we still, and to be clear, we still have an appropriate amount of money for recording liens, and we're looking to expand that. So I think certainly asking some questions, getting some more answers, providing some clarity on it, I think would be productive to the overall aim of getting
Bring the
this.
auditor next time and have
Yeah.
a nice clean meeting. So I second Linda's motion.
All right, so, well, yeah, the first motion wasn't seconded, so this, with that, it failed, so then your motion is to table it with request to get the information Joe has requested, as well as invite the auditor in to get some of the other questions answered. That was seconded. All is in favor?
Aye.
All is opposed? And who's gonna get that information, the 2016 information? Brian, will you get that over to?
Joe's gonna email me what he wants.
All right, so Joe, if you email it, send the list, CC Ryan, so in that way we all can get it once we get the response. Okay? Thank you, sir.
What do you want, money that's coming in?
Any source of what happened and how much money did he?
Just email it to me.
Motion was to table it. All is in favor? All is opposed?
I'll bring it over to you. That wasn't completed.
All right, so, next item. Item number 3, make a motion to move from the table. All those in favor? All those opposed? Order that in accordance with Mass General Law 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accept the provisions of the LED lighting upgrade grant. Who's here for this one? Yep, come on in. Take a seat here and then turn the mic on.
All right, so Andrew Smith, Conservation and Sustainability Director. I'm here with Jonathan Zwerko, Project Engineer with Gaston Electric, and we're here to talk about the Green Communities funding that's been awarded for this current funding cycle. As you know, Holyoke is a green community. Since 2010, there's 155 green communities in the Commonwealth. And since basically what you do when you become a green community is you sign on to reducing municipal energy usage by 20%. Based upon weather normalized data going back to 2010, Holyoke has reduced energy consumption by 26%, which is pretty good. You know, it's like what has been happening is working. So there's this really cool software program that takes all the data that Jonathan manages, and then it has all these models, and you can get a cool graph that shows energy usage and it.
I've been tracking it since 2009, so I have to put it in annually every June or July or so, and this is our 6th year in the program, and so far we've done 26% that the program's calculated. So
Can you make that available? Can you send a copy to all the counselors?
absolutely.
Yeah, we can figure out how to do that. Yeah. So some of the projects that have been funded: parking LEDs around the city, exterior lighting at some of the schools, not all the schools. The Big Belly trash compactors; those have been funded with the program. HVAC upgrades to Children's Museum and Volleyball Hall of Fame. That was funded 2 different funding cycles with Green Communities money, and the HVAC upgrades to City Hall and the City Hall Annex. So it's been a good source of money. About I think $1.5 million. I think is what they've calculated is coming to Holyoke as a result of our participation in the program. And this year, what we've done is we've put together 8 different projects in kind of like a broad selection of the city. We have City Hall, exterior lighting at City Hall, upgrades for the large units that illuminate City Hall. At Gaston Electric, they're all lighting upgrades, so everything is going to be a lighting upgrade, going from regular lights to LED lights. Garages, all the garages are going to get upgrades, Hadley Falls, that's going to get upgrades. The main office, sort of the big, sort of grand old bank building, the lights inside of there are going to be upgraded. Schools, wall pack upgrades, which are the sort of like, it looks like a coffee can that's stuck on the side of a building. All those are going to be upgraded. And fire department number 6 is going to have a lighting upgrade. So taken together, what we're looking at is roughly 38, the equivalent of taking 38 homes offline. Just the annual consumption of 38 homes is going to be removed from the municipal, just the municipal energy consumption. The total project is for about $115,000. The local match is being provided through a combination of factors. There's no local match requirement, but it definitely helps with funding. Gas and electric, which they have a lighting rebate program, and they're going to be using electricians, correct?
Yes, under our annual contract, we have electricians.
So, yeah, even though it's not a requirement, it
In
counts.
kind, kind of
Yep.
thing.
So it's not something that has to be expended within this fiscal year. It can be expended within the up to fiscal year that expires June 30th, 2018. So it's an exciting project, and what we're here for is to answer any questions you have and to seek approval of accepting the $115,000 that's been provided under this grant.
115,000, you said?
115,895.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Jimmy?
Yeah, just very quickly, I heard that you say that underneath this upgrade that the building down here was affected. I just want to make for public disclosure that I'm the president of the International Volleyball Hall of Fame, and my wife Eileen is the president of the Children's Museum.
Okay.
So we're presidents of the whole building there, and we get zero financial gain. But I just want to make that as it's public disclosure.
Okay.
Anyone else? No?
Good job, thank you.
Motion to
Make a
accept?
motion
Second.
Motion is to accept the grant. All those in was second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed.
Thank you for the description.
Thank you. So we'll forward the summary to Ryan to
Yeah.
give to you? Okay,
Yeah.
we'll do that.
With the cool chart.
With the cool chart.
There'll be cool charts.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Please put in layman's terms, any writing.
Will do.
Thanks.
All right, so, item number 4, make a motion to move from the table.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Order that the city accept the provisions of the financial forecasting and capital planning grant. And also number 5 is another grant. We did get a letter.
You want a motion to take them up as a package?
Well, I'll be up to you. Let me give you the letter first, and you guys go. This is from, Ryan sent this, and Rory responded. I'm unable to make tonight's meeting. The 2 grants in question both came from the Commonwealth and are in connection with the Commonwealth Compact signed by the mayor and lieutenant governor. Neither one has a match and will create new positions. The only requirement is that the money is spent during the fiscal year. The financial forecasting grant will be used to hire a consultant who will work with us over the fiscal year to produce a tool that will allow the city to better prepare for future financial gains and losses. We'll most likely be working with UMass, as they have the most experience in this field. The electronic permitting grant will help us purchase software and hardware to allow for a better experience for constituents in our inspectional staff, exceptional staff, I guess how he's saying. This will allow us to complete a project involving planning, building, health, and fire department. If you have any questions, thanks, Rory. I guess if we go to the grants. So project scope for the financial one, long-range financial planning in the form of development of a long-range plan and fiscal forecasting tool that assesses long-term financial implications of current and proposed policies, programs, and assumptions. Capital planning in the form of development and multi-year capital plans that reflect the city's needs, is reviewed annually and fits within the financial plan that reflects the city's ability to pay. Together, these two tools will serve as a core component for the long-term financial planning process. So I guess that's the scope of the grant.
Not just the grant. It's
So
just,
disbursement of the grant. So 75% of the grant award, or 30,000, will be dispersed to grantee within 45 days. 25% of the grant award, or 10,000. Okay, this is a little weird. 40. So 40,000 it looks like. So I can pass that one over there, and I'll take a look at the other one, the electronic permitting. All right, so this one is, it is great pleasure to inform you that your community has been awarded $48,975 for a grant through the Community Compact Cabinet, CCC. Scope of the project is to fund under the EOAF grant, will include implementing an electronic permitting system. So implementing an electronic permitting system, not sure what that means.
I thought Eunice had that.
I mean, we can do, I mean, there are some requirements on this one that they'll have to, which they'll probably most likely meet, but, I mean, to me, I'd like to ask questions as to what this grant is ultimately doing and what we're getting out of it.
Right, would they use our software? Would we be
I
paying
don't know.
new software?
Well, that's what,
You
it-
know,
yeah,
that we're already
that's,
supporting other software?
we haven't taken that one up yet. With this one here, this one's the 40,000.
It's like one time.
I told you what the scope was. Any questions with the first grant, which is the financial forecasting and capital planning? Joe?
Who is the lead on the grant? Who's going to oversee the grant?
Once again, a great question. I mean, we can table these and have someone come in to answer those questions.
Well, I don't have a problem with it, providing the quote-unquote consultant that is either a firm or a person that's tied to the grant and not a new position for the city of Holyoke, or not considered a new position under city government under no circumstances. But we also, you know, the lead person is, you know, who's going to administer the grant, whether it's the mayor's office, which that one might make sense, but on the second one, I'm not too sure why that would be the mayor's office.
Well, how about this, seeing how no one's here actually to really discuss it, and the email to us was two sentences, or 2 paragraphs. We can take it up again. I mean, it came to us August 2nd, so. Yep.
It's hard to read over here.
Yeah, so, I mean, my motion would be to table the
Second.
first one. There's any questions? No? So motion is to table and was seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Request to have someone come in. Move from the agenda item number 5, the electronic permitting system grant. All those in favor? All opposed? Once again, since no one's here, we can table it and have someone come in.
Second.
So motion is to table, it was seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Number 6 is an application from Monica. Is there a Monica here? For 2 pool tables at 637 South Summer Street.
The only thing I can tell you is that they're not there anymore.
They're not there anymore, so
So
that's probably the reason why we're not getting
Yeah.
responses back, so. So they're not, it's,
they're moved out of there.
Is it a social club deal?
They moved to another social club, yeah. They moved to another one on,
Did they take their liquor license with them? Well, they don't have liquor licenses.
they're still selling, but
But they, yeah.
all right, so we took this up on, October 19th, 2015. No one came in. So we table it to try and do it again, so,
are they?
all right, so with that information, there'd be a motion to.
Can we give it leave to withdraw, or is this one of those where the applicant has to take it back?
If they're not there, it's just, and they're not responding, Ryan's reached out to them
Procedurally.
twice.
Hey, you can deny it without prejudice.
Deny it,
Yeah.
yeah, deny it without prejudice.
Oh, okay.
They're coming back with a new address.
All right, so make a motion, move item number 6 from the table.
Second.
All in favor, all
Aye.
opposed? Make a motion to give it, or actually, motion to
Deny.
deny.
Without prejudice?
Is there a second for
Second.
that? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah, I saw the police
Oh.
somewhere around there.
He's still there, I can see his lights.
All right, so make a motion to remove item number 7.
Second.
All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Application from Ricardo to keep 1 pool table at 65 Commercial Street.
Still open, that's the only thing I know.
Let's see, on 6/1, no one showed up. So there, it's a second try here. He is from Chicopee, 38 Summer Street, apartment 2. And he has a phone number, so what would the,
Should we leave it on the table and ask our administrative
Try,
assistant to follow up?
Can you give me the number?
so he is at 38 Summer Street, apartment 2, Chicopee, Mass. I won't give his phone number out,
Yeah.
but you
No,
can
no,
look at
I
that,
can write
yeah.
it. I can write
Once again, we took it up on 6/1. There was a no-show. So you guys want to give one more chance?
Yeah.
So motion is to
Just to be
table it?
sure.
Table it.
Right, so,
I will find out and email you, that way you know exactly what we're gonna do with it.
We should do a field trip.
Yeah.
Bring the finance committee on the road.
Let's go down to tonight.
all right, so
Go
motion
there
is,
tonight and,
motion is to table. All's in favor? All's opposed?
That's right down by the, is it a moving company down there, isn't it?
All right, and then the
Below
last,
Last
one.
one. Care Center, I think. out
motion
behind-
moved to the
behind
table,
Commercial.
item number 8.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Application for 3 taxi cabs. I always butcher his name, so he's not here again. Yeah, he usually is here. Well, 6/1, it was tabled because he didn't show. So maybe his number's wrong, or, but yeah, he's always here.
So I don't think we should turn it down. I think we should just table that too.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll give him another chance. The motion is to table it. Is that seconded? So motion is to table. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We'll have to figure out why that one,
let me see that other application, I just wanna write the number.
that one's right there. All right, so with that, that's the end of the agenda. Make a motion to adjourn. All's in favor? All's
Aye.
opposed?
gonna stop by there.
Yeah, Joe, because you got here the first one, we tabled it because no one was here to discuss it. Yeah, I know. I know, we had a lot of questions last time. I just want to make sure you knew that. Okay. That came in.
No, no.
Well, no, the order came in to establish.
Well, that's to set up the
fund. That
revolving fund. No,
that
I
came
want to
from-
know.